Hi there, Nigel Saunders here of KW Bonsai. Today we're looking at my Japanese maple. It's a Bloodgood variety, one with, the fairly big red leaves. On the last update, we were just looking at the tree and letting it grow, and it grew well last summer. The only problem is that I had the tree in the basement for the winter, and some little mouse must have climbed up on the branches and it chewed off all the buds. So this branch is dead, I believe. All the buds are just missing on it right from the base to the tip. It may not be dead, but I don't know if any buds will sprout out from here now. There are some buds at the base that may sprout, but I don't know. So the tree's kind of taken a beating. Kind of a setback. If we're trying to develop our multi-trunk leaders, we're kind of back to square one again. But the good part is that all that energy from last summer is still in the tree. It's waiting to sprout forth this spring. So we're going to start by repotting the tree. It was repotted 2 years ago in 2014. Here's the root base of the tree up close, and it's got, several flaws. It has, this root's a little high. These ones are okay. My major complaint would be that it has, maybe 2 roots here, 3, 4, 5, 6, little one 7. It's got, 7 major surface roots, which isn't enough. A mature maple should have at least, I would say, 12 to 20 surface roots circling around the tree. So we're going to try and fix that. We're going to try and get more roots, and it'll give it a more miniature appearance. Right now the roots are a little large and coarse. So we're going to try and fix that. And the top of the tree, well, that's another story. The first thing I'm going to do is cut this tall leader back so it doesn't stick so far in the air to there. I'm just looking at it. The branch is still alive, so that's good. We're going to cut back this one too. There we go. Okay, so let's get the tree out of the pot. Let's see what's going on with the roots. This is really good soil in this pot, so I'm hoping the tree did really well. It grew well last summer. Okay, let's lift the tree out. Yeah, it's really good crumbly soil. The bottom of this pot was filled with crushed gravel, so the roots didn't grow much in the bottom. They just mainly grew in the bonsai soil. Okay, let's take our old pot away, and we'll start raking out the root base. Lots of fine roots in here. So we have a lot of new roots growing. You can see where we've pruned some of the roots. We've got new roots growing at the tip. Sort of like a pom-pom root, which is good. We can select some better roots off of that. Okay, I think we should turn the tree over now and start from the bottom. Now, one thing you'll notice as your root system gets more and more refined is that you'll get less, great big thick roots, and the new roots will grow kind of on an even vigor. So that's one of the pluses when your root system gets better and better. It kind of grows with more consistency. Okay, so we're down to the base of our tree there. You can see it in there. I don't think we need to wash the roots on this because they came really clean. That was good bonsai soil. So let's clean up and we'll start our root pruning. I am going to water the roots just to keep them moist while we're working on them. We've got our roots pretty well raked out. You can see what's going on with them. We're just doing some final raking. There we go. So I think we'll start by doing a prune around the edges, just to get rid of the really long roots. So there we go. Tidies it up a little bit. I'm looking at the roots now, and we've got a lot of problems. We've got, in this area, we've got one root down here, one here, like a couple up higher, and you know, a major root down below. One here. These ones are quite low. Some roots that aren't so good looking. This one's maybe too high. So yeah, it's not the greatest root plane in the world. It's you know, had it been trained from a younger tree, the root system would have looked better at this age, but however, it's not the worst in the world either. I think we'll start on the bottom, and we'll try and establish the base of our tree. So we're going to prune away all these roots growing on the underneath the tree. So we can clearly see what's going on at the base. And kind of establish, you know, our root plane. So I'm pruning it flat on the bottom. We've got, you know, here's the base of our tree. We've got a lot of roots that are hanging down below. So we want to prune those back. So some of them are just roots that we removed previously. So we're just going to clean them up, cut them off a little shorter. This is an effort to get the bottom of our tree flatter, which will be important someday when you want to fit it in a shallow pot. And it's also important for our root flare. So I've turned the tree over. It sits much better now. We've kind of, you know, got our plane of our roots established. So now let's go through and we'll prune up what we can. So the first one we have is this root was fairly high, and there's not much underneath it. There's a root that's growing down and towards the center of the tree. We're going to remove like that. There's one underneath we can redirect in a more radial pattern. Just kind of untangle it here and sort it out like that. So this is definitely what you call a pom-pom root. We've got one root flowing into, you know, about 10 other roots. So I'm just going to remove the one on top. And this one that's kind of on top. And we're going to keep a few of these other roots that can be trained, and eventually we want this one root to divide into two, but we're going to wait till they thicken up a little more before we cut off all the rest of them. It's always good to keep you know, a safety backup in case some of the roots die or something. So this root isn't very radial. It's going on an angle. If you can see that, instead of, you know, coming out in a radial direction, it kind of curves off on an angle a bit. So I think we'll remove the roots on this side and encourage these ones to grow to kind of straighten the root out. So I'm going to take a section off that root on this side. Just like that. I took a slice off. And we've got roots out this side, so it kind of redirects the root more in a radial direction. So it looks much better now. So our next root here is the same thing. It's got, you know, it's fairly long before it starts dividing also. The direction is nice and radial, which is good. We could prune it off shorter and get some subdividing closer to the trunk of the tree, which would probably look quite good. However, it would mean removing all these fine roots we developed in the last year at the end here. So it's kind of like starting again. However, it is, you know, it goes too long without subdividing, so we just have to prune it off. So I'm going to take a horizontal cut, nice and close here, like that. There's our roots. So it'll sprout a whole bunch of new roots coming here, and then we can get subdividing closer to our trunk, which will look good. Next, we've got kind of a bunch of roots here that don't look very good. We've got one that's going off on an angle that I'm going to try and untangle if I can. Looking for radial roots. That one's just too tough. I can't correct it. So I'm going to have to prune it off. And we'll regrow some roots in that area. Not quite through there. There. So we remove that root that grows off on a strange angle that isn't radial. And we're keeping a lot of these fine roots in here that are in a nice radial pattern. We're just kind of untangling them, which isn't easy. Roots can get quite tangled. There. Now, over here we've got two roots growing at a funny angle also. We're going to get rid of those. There's one gone. And the other one, I'm going to have to get in here, and it's kind of a girdling root. It kind of crosses some roots underneath, so I'm going to pry it out and cut it off. Or break it off, whatever. Let's see if we can get the rest of it. There. So that section's cleaned up about, you know, the best we can anyway. Next we come to this root. We do have some, it had been cut off from previous. It's got a new root growing out here and one this direction, which are both good. There is some roots growing from underneath it a bit here. We could prune it off and keep this root below. It would blend in with these roots more. which might mean we'd have to remove these surface roots eventually if we get some better ones growing down here. I don't know, it's borderline. It's a tough call, but I think we're going to remove it. Here we go. And I can't do a horizontal cut, but I'm going to do one on an angle pointing upwards. Like that. So now you can see it. This root is going to blend in better with the base of our tree. Not much more we can do, I don't think. You know, these ones we can let grow. They're not exactly in line. I'm wondering if we should remove these. All the other roots kind of go down to the base here. These ones kind of stick out. However, I always did say this one was too high. I think we got to get rid of it. My reasoning is, all the other roots, if you look at the trunk, they come straight down from the trunk and it kind of flows nicely. Nice curve into the soil. Whereas these ones, they're almost a little too horizontal. The trunk comes down and there's a little bend and it kind of curves. Now that could change as it grows older. This curve could start to fill in because the root's going to take the easiest path. So it's going to grow a nice gentle arc up here. It's hard to say. I think we'll leave it as it is for now. There'll be many repottings of this tree in future, and you can see how it grows, and then we can start correcting more things. You want to do as much root work as you can, but we don't want to try and do everything at once either. Okay, so let's get our pot and we'll get our tree planted. We're ready to plant our tree. So I've got my new pot, which is a little shallower. It's about the same size. And I've got my soil mounded up. So we're going to place the tree on center. And you can see it. The roots just fit in the pot. So I'm just going to comb out all these surface roots. I will do a little root pruning. We're a little close here. I don't like trees too tight in the pot. That's much better. So we'll just get the tree in the pot nicely. Check the height. We want all these roots that we cut into the soil. So we'll just lower it down a bit more. That's looking pretty good. Okay, we'll start filling it in. And we'll just work it in as we go. Before we add any more soil, just do it in stages. Make sure we've got this layer of soil worked in nicely. So this root base still has, a lot of work to go on it. But, every year or every 2 years, whenever we repot, we do as much corrective work as we can. And eventually, 10 years down the road, this root base will be as good as it can be. It'll be really awesome, but, no root base is perfect, but it'll be as good as it can be. Wash our tree off. Give it a nice watering. Our tree's repotted. It's looking good. It's a nice level in the soil. It's about where it was last time. So the last thing we want to do is a bit of corrective pruning to what's growing up top. So we've got, a fairly major branch growing here, and it's kind of gone into a pom-pom mode where it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shoots coming off of it. So we definitely want to get rid of the ones growing inside here. Like that. And we want to take off our thickest one and keep our 2 thinnest shoots, which, I don't know, they look pretty good. I think there's we're going to leave 3 on. The rabbit, or not the rabbit, the mouse did chew this one a bit, but there's a bud that's coming out. So I'm going to take off this one roughly here, and we'll just see how this develops, and then we'll just eventually keep 2 of them. There's a bud trying to come out here that the mouse missed, so we'll just leave this grow. There's some branches down lower here that I think we've got to get rid of. There's a dead one here, and we'll get rid of the higher one here. And then coming off the base of this branch, we've got 2 little ones. We want to get rid of those just to keep it a little cleaner. And also with this branch, we've got a lot of branches coming off the base here that we'll have to get rid of. I think that's all we can do on our Japanese maple for today. It's a long way off from being a bonsai tree. I wouldn't even call it a pre-bonsai yet. It's got so much work to go on it, both in the roots and the upper half. So we're just gonna keep trying. Hopefully every year we'll get some progress to the tree, and that's all you can do in bonsai, is try and make progress. So Nigel Saunders of KW Bonsai, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.